Aether Revolt is just days away from launch, and our focus now turns to the Modern format. What cards will have an impact on Modern, and what one card will see play in Modern more than any other? For many Magic the Gathering players, their frustrations with Standard have begun to push them into Modern, while others migrate here from Legacy out of concern that their format is dying. No, the reserve list is not quite fatal. Well, stay tuned and be sure to wait all the way to the end of this top 5 list to find out that Fatal Push is the #1 card to see impact and play in Modern. I mean, which card? Which card will... Darn it! Okay, so the #1 card for Modern is obviously Fatal Push, but what card is #2? Stay tuned to the end to find out. But first, what makes Fatal Push the top of just everyone's list from Aether Revolt for cards likely to see play in Modern? Fatal Push cannot possibly be anything other than the top pick for Modern. For 1 black mana, it is an instant that reads, destroy target creature if it has converted mana cost 2 or less. Revolt, destroy that creature if it has converted mana cost 4 or less instead, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. So let's talk about the Modern format. It is, with a few exceptions, a fast format that heavily uses fetch lands and low CMC creatures. This is one reason why cards like Abrupt Decay and Eidolon of the Great Revel are so great in the format. The CMC restriction might make these fair cards for Limited and Standard, but in Modern, nearly everything has converted mana cost 3 or below, with a few key pieces at 4. With a fetch land, you can trigger Revolt with ease, allowing for fast, effective, versatile, and flexible removal. In many instances, the early game can even have this card working wonders without Revolt. The fact that it is an uncommon makes it all the more wonderful. Grab your playsets now. If nothing else, they make excellent trade fodder. Man, imagine if Fatal Push were a Friday Night Magic promo. So many people would come in to play Standard because of that card's relevance in Modern, and yet it would also be a Standard viable card from the recent set. Boy, Friday Night Magic attendance for Standard would be through the roof, and oh, hello, let's move on to honorable mentions now that we've covered the #1 pick. In my top 5 list for Frontier from Aether Revolt, many viewers were dismayed that I only listed 5 cards from Aether Revolt and did not have any honorable mentions. So vocal were they in their frustration that I feel, for Modern, I need to comply with honorable mentions. And that's right, our honorable mention is Baral, Chief of Compliance, and yes, that is the laziest segue in the entire history of Tolarian Community College, and if you're a long-time viewer, then you know that's saying something. Baral, Chief of Compliance, costs 1 generic mana and 1 blue for a legendary human wizard that reads, instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. He also reads, whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Oh, that loot effect. Oh, Baral, my boy, you are so close. Baral reminds me of Goblin Electromancer, but no, Baral is not going to save Storm for Modern. That deck is toast. Baral brings 2 decks to mind for me. Those 2 decks I'm thinking of are Blue Moon and Mono Blue Control. But the reason he is only an honorable mention is because he doesn't have what it takes for either deck, given their needs. First off, at 3 toughness, Baral is still Bolt Bait, to say nothing of the previously mentioned Fatal Push, or host of other removal he dies to. He's not on curve to make good effect of his ability, and let's be honest, would be quite OP if he were. So I'm afraid Baral is relegated to the not quite good enough pile. Coming in at #5... Shh! I need to hide these. That's right, because our card is the Hidden Sockpile. What's that? Hidden Stockpile is the name of the card. That's a silly name. Doesn't seem to make as much sense as Hidden Sockpile. Hidden Stockpile is an enchantment for 1 black and 1 white with, like most of our cards, Revolt. It reads, at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Spend 1, sacrifice a creature, scry 1. Like many cards in Aether Revolt, this does carry with it a lot of brew around me potential. But I am reminded instead of a deck from long ago that might just make a comeback thanks to the comfy warm edition of these stocks. Black-white tokens. The card interacts powerfully with Tide Hollow's Sculler, allowing you to permanently exile one of your opponent's cards while netting a scry 1 and 1/1 servo, all due to the abuse of the enter the battlefield effect. In black-white tokens, this slides right in alongside Spectral Procession and Lingering Souls, although it is a major shame that the servos it creates aren't Flying Thopters instead. I'm not sure if this is enough to bring back black and white tokens from the grave, but I think it gives the deck a lot of the oomph it needs. Progress in Modern often happens in small incremental steps rather than a big explosive new card that creates an entire new deck around it or shakes up the format dramatically. Instead, we look for slightly better upgrades to bit by bit eke our way into a more powerful and more streamlined deck, and our next card is no exception. Here is a 1-drop that we may drop into Zoo, and that card is Narnam Renegade. Now, while this makes me think of Wild Nactyl, Wild Nacatl, the better 1-drop to compare this card to is Curd Ape. You see, Renegade is a Curd Ape that, with a turn 1 fetch land, can come into play as a 2/3, as opposed to Curd Ape's red card needing a forest to be there in order to make it a 2/3. Is this flat out better and a flat out replacement for Ape? Or perhaps just a semi-substitution? Either way, what we are seeing here is potentially a superior Curd Ape for Zoo that might be exactly what this creature deck needs to keep up in the new meta. Alright, number 3 is one of those explosive new cards that brings with it a brand new deck and a combo to make every Johnny player's dreams come true. That card and that combo, of course, is Felidar Guardian. Felidar Guardian is a cat beast that costs 3 generic and 1 white and reads, when Felidar Guardian enters the battlefield, you may exile another target permanent you control. Then return that card to the battlefield under your owner's control. The card this works with in Standard also works quite nicely in Modern, and that is Saheeli herself. This is what I love, something new coming to Modern, even if it is combo. No, this is not quite Splinter Twin, as some have said. Certainly not as good in that it's easy to disrupt. But make no mistake, the combo is potent and powerful. Part of the advantage lies in the fact Saheeli can offer function even without the cub at the ready, and she even works towards getting your missing piece for completing the combo. There's a lot to love here, a new deck, an interesting combo coming out of Standard, and best of all, the potential for a Standard deck build to graduate into Modern, if not now, then as a few new sets and the pieces they bring may be released in the future. Alright, while our number 2 pick comes nowhere near Fatal Push, it is a powerful card that is rallying for a top spot, and it's earned it. That card, of course, is the Renegade Rallyer. Renegade Rallyer is 1 generic and 1 green and 1 white for a human warrior with, yep, you guessed it, Revolt. In fact, I think it's really fair to say at this point that the Revolt mechanic was just made for Modern love. When Renegade Rallyer enters the battlefield, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, return target permanent card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Crack a fetch land to search for any permanent card with converted mana cost 2 or less to return to the battlefield. There's ramp for days here. At the very least, return your fetch land. Or maybe return your Selfless Spirit. Return all sorts of goodies from green and white to join in the fight. I am absolutely in love with this fast, ramp-aiding, aggro-supporting card for Modern. Considering our number 1 pick is a card that works hard at tearing down creatures and removing them from the battlefield, I'm so glad that our number 2 spot goes to a card that does the opposite, bringing them back into the battle. There's a sort of yin and yang to it. But I really want to hear from you. What cards do you think are going to have the most impact in Modern? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, these cards and more can be ordered from channel sponsor Card Kingdom by following our affiliate link. Support the channel by checking out Card Kingdom through our link today. And this video has been brought to you in part by a sponsorship from Card Kingdom, as well as the Patreon support of viewers like you. So thank you.